All right, good morning, everyone. Let's kick it off here. All right, last night's session on U.S. markets, as you can see there, was more or less a drift up off of the first hour lows. From that point on, we really kind of just pushed higher for the entire session. We were down about as much as 12 points, I think, on the S&P at the most, maybe down a little over 100 points on the Dow. And from there, we really just drifted up, and you can see we finished with a real benign sell-off, less than 0.25% across the indexes on the day. So ended up being able to shrug off a day of pressure again. I think the market's been a little bit nervous about the Ukrainian situation, more specifically than the Gaza-Israel situation. But I think that last night there seemed to be the first real signs of cooperation from Russia and Ukraine, or Russia and the authorities, and Russia starting to hand over things like the black box, and making good on promises to give the bodies away to authorities as well. So I mean, I think that's probably a little bit of the calm that we saw that came over the market toward the end of the session on the day. We did have some big moves in a few stocks. Herbalife being one of them. Bill Ackman coming out and saying that he's going to reveal fraud tonight to the extent of Enron and their fictitious trading floors back in 2000. So I think that market's really really jazzed up for that. I think sold off about 11% on the day yesterday, and then we had Hasbro and BB&T that were both down after earnings missed analyst estimates. But we did have some positive results that came after hours. Netflix maybe slightly better than expected, Chipotle way better than expected, and a few others as well, quite solid on the day. So we continue to see more or less solid results coming out of the U.S. at the moment. All right, following on from the calm that we saw that kind of came out of the States and the end, maybe on the back of some of the tensions being quelled a little bit in Ukraine. I think it followed through a lot in Asia. We had the Nikkei, which obviously came out after being closed yesterday, which pushed significantly higher. But the real bounces came out of the Hang Seng and out of Shanghai. And I think a lot of that came on the back of Shanghai announcing the change in policies to help automakers, especially promoting electric cars. So we got a boost there in China and in Hong Kong on the back of that. Probably boosted some of the stocks in Tokyo as well. But bottom line, pushed a little bit higher. We had some of the mining stocks as well that were relatively solid out of Australia. So a decent session out of Australia, and probably one of the better ones in recent days. All right, we got a really interesting chart here. This is showing all the way back to 2005. So this is the last 10 years. This is the Dow Industrial reaction, the CBOE VIX, and the 10-year U.S. Treasury yield following these major political turmoil, or global crises, I guess you could say. We had the London transport bombings. That was in 2005. You can see there that one, actually, we didn't even get a pullback initially. Over the next 22 days, you can see the market's up 2.3%. Then in 2006, we had the India, Israel, and Lebanon bombings. Market was initially down 3%. Over the next 22 days, it was up 5%. Then we had the only two that were down were actually in late 2008 and early 2009, which after 22 days, which I think you can kind of check that off the list, because I don't think that's why the market was. I don't think that these crises are why the market was down. Then the Boston Marathon bombing was down the first day of the event, 1.8%. Next 22 days, up 4.6. And then so you can see the weighted averages for what happens here is an initial sell-off that comes, and then over the next the next 3 weeks or so, we really get a kind of a push up in equity markets. So just keep that in mind, and we may get that same sort of result here after what the market initially thought could turn into something really serious. As Putin probably starts to cooperate a little bit, the nerves will come out of that, and you'll probably see some of those people covering shorts or entering longs in the market. So just be careful out there with those trades. All right, corporate action today. We had Kumba iron ore that came out a little while ago. We had first half expectation. I think we came in at what are the comparables here? Okay, I'll come back and I'll put the comparables up in just a second. Just give me some time to type these out. They're supposed to be in here. We've got McDonald's. Bottom line is Kumba came in more or less in line from what the trading statement came out from the other day. So just keep that in mind. I'll come back and give you some details in just a little bit. Then we've got McDonald's, United Technologies, Comcast, Verizon Group, Altria, Microsoft, and Apple all coming out later today in the States. Microsoft and Apple coming after the bell. So it's a big day. You can see here for the tech space in the States, and we'll really getting to the meat of earnings season. All right, so in market data today, we had the Japanese All-Industry Activity Index came in line this morning. We've got leading indicators here in SA at the open. We've got CPI numbers in the U.S. We've got we've got House Price Index in the States. We've got Richmond Fed in the States, and then we've also got existing home sales coming out later, all later today in the States. So. All right, so today we obviously don't have any data whatsoever coming through in Europe, so we're going to be focused on the trade action for the better part of the day. All right, let's get into the maps. First thing that I want to show is we're going to look at the Aussie here. I'm going to zoom this forward a touch. And this is, this morning you can see that we've popped up here a little bit, so we are opening a little bit higher. But I wanted to just have a look at, and you'll never have the same sort of level of confidence in these sort of slanted patterns. But it's definitely looking at to some sort of an extent like a little bit of a head and shoulder pattern. Nothing exceedingly convincing, but something to look at nonetheless. I think if we were to break down, we'd really need to get below probably 46,000, and then I think we can probably really potentially move to the downside. So you can see what I'm looking at there. Like I said, because of the fact that it's not, it's a little bit of a slant, maybe too much of a slant for my liking, but it's something to look at nonetheless. It's something to think about. All right. Let's look at Sanlam. Sanlam, the reason why I wanted to look at this thing, a lot of these banks and insurers and stuff are looking similar, but you can see here that at the bottom of this, this is kind of a hard chart to really define, I think, but you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 touches on this level, along with yesterday's close. That's at 68.50. We actually closed 2 cents below that today. I think that's really where we're going to look for. I mean, obviously a close below 60 would be more convincing, but bottom line is I think below 60.50 this thing can get moving to the downside here a little bit. We're probably going to open up a little bit this morning in line with the market, but keep this one on your radar. And if we drop below 60.50, then I think we'll be out of this little consolidation phase, and we can maybe move down about 2.5, 3 rand on the back of that. All right, if we look at MTN here, this chart definitely is looking like we could start to see a move to the upside here. We've flagged down here off of the 235 level, and we've done so, like I said the other day. I mean, we had maybe one convincing sell-off. Other than that, for the most part, it's just been a drift down and to the right. And this is an absolutely classic setup here. We build it. We're into support. Yesterday was the second day where we survived a test of 220. We traded a little bit below 220 for the second day out of the past maybe week and a half, and it held on it again. And I think that we really just need to see a pop up above about 223, and this thing could really be off to the races. Retest the all-time highs and which are the same as the recent highs potentially here in MTN. So there's a couple patterns that look like that. There's that one. There's Sasol as well. The Sasol. The only reason why I would say Sasol not quite as convincing is because it hasn't really come down to test any sort of major level of support area yet. If we just pull this a little bit forward, I'd love to see this thing come down and test in the same sort of fashion in this little slow bleed down to the right. I'd love to see it test 600. It hasn't done so yet. All we've seen it really do is kind of test a little below 620, maybe the 615 level, and but it's been holding 620 for the most part on a closing basis. This thing pops out. I mean, it doesn't have to go far. Maybe at 23, 24, 623, 624, it could really move to the upside here. And we've got oil that's starting to push again. I think that this thing's set up maybe to go sooner rather than later. All right. Let's look at Discovery. Discovery, I'm just going to show here. I mean, obviously, we talked about this a whole bunch of times, coming up to retest this level, the all-time high. Basically got up there and failed intraday. But you can see that we've really just been consolidating right on top of this little support level where we broke out from at 94.90, call it 95. You can see there we closed at 95.11 yesterday, and the top end of the range has been about $3 higher. And I think that we're going to see, once we break out of this consolidation, we'll see our next real move. Obviously, if we break out through the top side, we can close above 99. That can take us on to a real breakout here. But if we fail the 95 level, then I think we may see a quick $3 or $4 of pullback in Discovery. So just watch that level closely in the next few sessions, and then we'll have a look at CCO as well, which yesterday dropped a important technical level, which you can see there at 58. I drew that really skew. What the heck's going on? Why can't I move that line? Sorry about that. Okay. Anyway, the levels are right here around 58, and you can see there we dropped that level yesterday on the closing basis, 53.39 we closed out at, and you can obviously this is some significant sort of level of support. I think in the interim we're probably going to be looking in the short term for a 4 rand move to the downside, which will take us down to around the 54 rand level in CCO. And that's it for today, guys. Good luck.